So I'm also one of the founders of BatCat Games. We released a twin-stick shooter called P3 Biotic. We use XNA. Who uses XNA here? Raise hands. Ah, this is great. This is going to be fun. Okay, who's a student here? Okay, majority students. So the thing is, yeah, I'm one of BatCat Games. We're working on another game called Jiro. I'm also one of the organizers of Dublin Gamecraft. And if you haven't been, you should totally come to one or any other game jam, because this is, someone saying, what is the best advice you can give to someone starting or thinking about being a game developer? Go to game jams, all of them. Think about game jams, because you learn to go do games very quickly. So without further ado, we're going to talk about Monogame. And so what is Monogame? Monogame is a wonderful platform that kind of gets heavily inspired on the XNA API, and that allows you to do a lot of really cool things. Like, it allows you to go to Windows 8, 7, iOS, Android, PS3, Xbox, Apple, Linux, oh yeah, oh my god, and Raspberry Pi. So, that's a lot of places, which is kind of cool. I mean, some of the platforms I just mentioned are there they're not completely ready. So, but they're getting there, and if you really want to be on one of those platforms, just get your coding hands on and do something, write some code. So how does this work? Because it's like, there's no magic here. So for Windows 8, there's a 10 C# wrapper called SharpTX that works on top of DirectX, so that we can have WinRT on writing basically XNA on top of DirectX 11. For all the other platforms, we use OpenTK. That means that we use OpenGL and OpenAL for all the magic, basically. OpenTK, like SharpTX, is a thin wrapper, so that it's easier to code and to the base. And that is actually what makes you be able to target all these platforms. There's one thing: if you want to release to iOS, you need to use Monotouch from Xamarin, and the same for Android. You have to buy a license, basically. If you're not releasing your game, you can use, get a trial. That is, it doesn't go off, but you can't release to a device. Now, the problem with working with an emulator is that they can be very slow. However, I don't have a lot of experience with the iOS side of things, but on Android, if you run it on x86, there's how to configure your Android device for x86 acceleration. The emulator is really good. So, let's see. Did I say that? Oh yeah, for Linux it's actually quite nice. You should try it. It's nearly the same as coding it from. Basically you can code it. If you're targeting Linux, you can write it from your PC, and it's a very, very similar experience. So, you might be wondering, okay, this Monogame thing, it's actually quite good and popular. I'm talking about like all these titles released, and we're going to see some screenshots of this, which I find really, really cool. And from the perspective of someone who is about to release a game on this platform, it's kind of relaxing, because that means, well, I'm not alone. Actually, if anything, I'd like to give a big shout out to the guys at Monogame, Dominic and Dean. They are the two people I know from the team who are not only really, really nice, but also incredibly knowledgeable about this. This project has moved on a lot since last year, when we met them at Develop. This is how it progressed. The fact that, Raspberry Pi support, and Ouya, I mean, the way that they are reacting to new consoles coming out is just, I find amazing and really exciting from a developer point of view. And if we tag along to Owen's point on, the release on platforms that, small platforms. Even better when you release to new platforms because you're targeting non-saturated markets. So that's a nice one to do. Also, oh, by the way, I hate talking to myself because it kind of feels weird. So if you have questions, fire them along. Actually, you should probably ask me something so I don't feel so weird right now. Like, what's my, yeah. You're talking about the content pipeline. So the question was about the content pipeline. And I'm going to actually talk about that at the very end and what status it's in. But yeah, there's a solution for that. Any other question? I promise I won't make you feel weird. Okay. So I don't know how to do that. Okay, so yeah, recently they released version 3. And a lot of people thought, hey, that's a great idea. So everybody went and tried. So I suggest you do the same. There's a really good installer that basically you download and install, and there's nothing very crazy about that. And you can try Monogame on Windows. Actually, you can try Monogame on Windows on OpenGL. That means that you'd be targeting the same APIs that you would for Android and iOS and whatnot, and it can start to give you some familiarity with those. I'd love to have the audit for that. It's like, well, kind of a big deal. So why use Monogame? The way I see it, the best thing, I love frameworks that are open source. Can anybody mention why? Like, why would anybody like an open source framework? One at a time. If you don't like something, you can fix it. Awesome. What else? You. Someone over there. We have all the resources we need already. What else? Community based around it. It's free. Now, these are all amazing options. So, yeah, that's why one of the best things. Then it's based off XNA. I find that XNA was really, really an amazing SDK to work with because it's like, and the thing is like, it wasn't a framework, so it wasn't super invasive in your code, but it was a nice API that you could kind of type along and get exactly what you want. You could do really, really powerful things. I know that bitrate is not like the most amazing game ever, but it looks fucking awesome. It really does, and all kudos goes to Andrew on that, actually. He's been doing all the shader stuff. He loves it, but he's done an amazing job in making that game just look eye-candy awesome. The other amazing thing about Monogame is that it's got a Unix workflow. That means if you have a Mac, you don't have to go and install this thing and blah, 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 blah. And the reason why you don't have to do that is if you're on iOS or you can, or on a Mac, you can load the raw files. It's not the best way to go about it because you can get optimizations on the content pipeline, but actually it would be nice to get some water. But you can already load JPEGs and PNGs, MP3s, WAV files, and something else. There's 5 things you can load just raw, so you don't need to actually build them on the content pipeline. However, there's more there. The fact that you have that workflow, though, it's amazing. And you have also Visual Studio support. That means, I don't know you, but I'm a real fan of ReSharper. And basically, Visual Studio for me is okay, but Visual Studio with ReSharper is just a really, thank you so much. It's a really amazing tool for productivity. You know, Owen again was talking about productivity. I am way more productive with ReSharper. And that's an amazing point. 95% code reuse on a super flexible platform. That is just amazing. This is the reasons I use Monogame. But then, we all need to eat, and not just noodles. And this is stuff, you know, a lot of you, I'm sure, are worried about this stuff. There's a lot of information about sales on apps and on non-apps, on App Annie, and on Flurry. You know, if you're looking for stats. most downloaded games, sorry, most downloaded apps are actually games, and customers tend to spend more money on games. Windows 8 is, and Windows Phone 8 are new, new markets again. Target those. The types of games that are quite successful is actions and sims. Sorry, action and sims, and freemium seem to do better. Not my favorite, but hey. So also strategy tends to kind of turn a bigger, you can read the graph. So we'll move to the fun parts. Now, I think, because I think you're going to have questions about this, I'm going to do this and the next one at the end. Basically, what we're going to do first is convert a very simple Chase app into Android. What I've done is I put it here in this place because it's kind of nice. I don't know if can you all see it? I'm going to say yes. Thank you, Brian, for lending me this. But basically, I don't have the Android license on that laptop because it's not my development machine. As you can see, this is kind of moving around and stuff. So either, it's like it's there. Then the next conversion is going to be converting an XNA sample with shaders to Windows 8. Woo! And that is actually the most exciting part for me. So I hope it is for you too. I just want to show you this really quick. This is some R games that were released that are already available. And just to see the spectrum and what you can do with this amazing piece of kit that is open source. So Armed, you heard about Armed? No? Okay. Bastion. There you go. I mean, they even are on a native client, and they recently donated all their code they wrote, and they're slowly reintegrating it into the main code base. Draw Stickman. I don't know, have you heard about this thing? Cool. It's like you draw a stickman, and you play with the stickman, and it's quite nice, actually. And it's in basically everything. Tin Man Can. This looks kind of nice. Schools of the Shogun. Now, this is a really cool game, and the guys who did it are also really, really nice. And this is where I do the demo. Any other questions up to here? Yes, Brian. Compared to native in... I don't know how you would compare it. The question was, how would you compare the performance with native? The thing is, like, if you're writing, say you target iOS just for the crack, how would you compare it and with what? If you're comparing it with something like Unity, I would say, I would guess that it's worse because Unity works on the same technology stack, but is way chunkier at the top. So, but that is my guess right now. I don't have any info on that, though. I'll send that back. Anybody else? Okay, I don't see anybody. So what I'm going to do now is switch to code. Okay. This is waiting music. Okay. So I'm going to move this options, font colors. I'm going to increase the font size so you can actually read. And go to 13 because that's the year. Why not? Come on. Okay, so what we're going to do is see this game. Well, it's kind of like a game. It's the same one that we put on Android. And basically just see it run. It's got it's a nice, touch base. Well, you could touch base it. And you could toggle off the camera spring, and you just feel like that. Nothing too crazy. We're not here to talk about XNA, so I'm not going to go over that code, but I'm going to go over what we need to do to port it to Android. So, what you do here is this. I obviously have my sample already done, because that would be crazy to start it again, is it? But instead of actually showing it as I'm doing it, which is many times incredibly confusing, because you're like, what did she just do? What? There is two ways to do this. Of kind of starting whatever it is you're porting to something else. One is to include the libraries and recompile them. And another one is to just file new monogame, whatever it is you're targeting. So the way we're going to do the Windows 8 one is to do file new blah. But the way we're going to do this is to include the libraries. So in here, I have a project with these references. Basically, I included the library, Monogame Framework Android, and Litgren. So basically, you do, to include these guys, you do filed, like you do add existing project. You find where it is. In my case, I'm going to go to C, source, Monogame Framework. Because I'm targeting Android, I'm going to include Android. I did that already. And then I'm going to do the very same and include Litgren, just because I know those are the dependencies. The reason I'm showing you this is because I see a lot of times question coming up about, oh, I want to use physics engine, blah. How do I do that? And I'm doing that just to show that it's someone else. And most times what you need to do is grab that library, bring it along, try to compile it, fix problems that arise until it compiles, and then just use it. Because anybody wants to guess why that is? No? Okay. So I'm also checking if you're awake, all those things, because I don't know if this is like really obvious. The reason you have to do that is because you're targeting all these different platforms. You need to find if, you need to build that DLL or assembly into something that can be processed and understood by your target device. So this is why you need to include them this way. Of course, this Monogame Framework Android is especially kind of there with all the files have like if-defs or extra files just for Android. So far what we've done to create a new Android project is file new the Monogame project, add these two libraries, and then what we're gonna have to do is go to assets, content, and we're gonna have to include the XMBs. To do that, you can do add files. You find where, the way that we built these guys here? We're gonna find where this is. God, this is so slow. And go to bin, x86, debug, content. Grab these guys, or you can grab this address. Go to the other thing. Where are we? Basically, copy and paste there, although you can't, and include them as. Okay, say I'm going to add it again, and it's going to probably throw an error. Nope, it didn't. If I was doing that, okay, I'll just remove that checker 0. I'm going to add it as a link, right? And the reason you do that, the adding as a link, is so that if you rebuild the XMB, you will you'll get the correct one, as opposed to if you copy it and you rebuild, you won't get the updated version. Then the other thing you have to do is some properties. Build action, you have to set it to compile or content. Oh, you don't have to do anything, great. Sorry, in Windows 8 you have to set them to something else. And then you build and everything is fine. So we're gonna build, and because of, I started this before we started the presentation, and it's still not even booting up. And that's the reason why I'm showing you this here, which is very unimpressive, but I'll impress you with the next demo, hopefully. So, you were flying away and it's wonderful. Woo, yeah. Thank you. At least I got it one. So, is there any questions about this? I mean, the steps are slightly reiterative, but basically include the libraries you need, include the content into the correct place, which for Android is assets content, and it will be different for our ones. And that's it. So, not much to do there. Yes?
Is Mono Develop out of the loop now with Xamarin Studio?
Actually, for what I understand is they just renamed it. Yeah, Mono Develop up to version 3.0 was like Mono Develop on its own. When you go to try to download it now, it's version 4.0 and it's called Xamarin Studio. And it looks like this. Which
so it is Mono Develop.
It is actually Mono Develop. All the stuff that you knew from before, like all the menus and everything, are exactly the same. It's just a new and improved version. The Monogame assemblies need to be whitelisted, so if you have some teething issues on the next few days, it's expected. So I would recommend hold off the update if you can for a week or two, and then hopefully the Monogame assemblies will be whitelisted and everybody can just use it normally. There is a blog post about it on the monogame.net website. So with that done, we're going to move to this other one. So this other one is a slightly more involved process. Where we're going to see here, and we're going to try to port to Windows 8, is this pretty awesome, thing. You're all so quiet. I feel really lonely here. So, I don't know you, but I quite like this. So what we're doing here is using a bunch of shaders. This is part of a Bloom post-process sample that is available from the XNA Creators Club. So, I know that the projector screen is not optimal for this, but you can get an idea of the effects you can do. So it's like, something happened, oh my God. Oh no, I can't see anything. So I'm on a tank. Okay, that works. So that's the normal XNA project, and we just run that from there. Basically, went over to the XNA Content Creators Club, downloaded this thing, F5 on Visual Studio, and that's cool. Now, the thing is, as we were saying earlier on the presentation, you have those, you have to use OpenTK for blah and SharpTX for blah. So when you're building content, and particularly for shaders, since you have to talk straight to the GPU, you need to find a good way to convert one to the other. And the Monogame guys went and built this stuff. I hope you can see it. I think I'm going to have to change this so that you can read. Basically, there is an assembly there. Oh, it's still in 13. Called Monogame Content Processor. Now, that is on. That comes and installed it in here. When I said go and use the installer, it wasn't like, oh yeah, use the installer. It's always been there. It's super obvious. That wasn't like that until recently. So installer is cool. It not only sets up the projects, the project files, but it also sets up this kind of thing. And most importantly, it sets up this kind of thing. This is basically what I just did there is opening where these two other projects are, right? And this is stuff that you can find either on my demo or find them in the Monogame assemblies. In here, I'm going to this project, Bloom Content Builder. That is just an empty shell. And if you check the project, view syntax. Of course I can't see syntax when I'm here in front of everybody. Why would I? Oh yeah. I want to find XML, and of course I can't. There we go. So the important and the only thing that was changed of this is this very line. That line says, in case you can't see it, but I'll make it super big, and now you can. Basically, all that's doing is saying, hey, target this content pipeline, right? So you're targeting this target. So that is an MS build target. So we're getting into the nitty-gritty of MS build. That if in the future, when you're using this on X build, it would be an X build target. So yeah, just keep that in your mind there. So we did this project, and we did that small one-line change. And in here, what we're going to do is just a simple content project. We add that reference to this thing. As I said, you can just grab this, but it's good if you know why. And then what you do is add this, which is in this location that I showed you. And then you need to add the content from the other projects where we were in. Now, I know this sounds doesn't sound very simple, but we're not doing something simple. So sometimes life is like that. So what we have to do here is bring these guys to here, the same way we did that thing before, add reference, sorry. Right click, add existing item, we go grab them, all good, and they're there, they're added as link. Sorry, in case you haven't seen that. Existing item, so you do that, you do add as link for the very reason you did the same thing before of trying to get always the latest. So if we look at this, there is just 2 or 3 things I've changed here. And that's that in here, in this other project, the original project, that says XNA framework effect there, right? See my mouse? Say yes. Yes, awesome. Thank you. And in the XNA content, the one that I'm going to use to build content for Monogame, this has changed to Monogame effect. Oh yeah. So we have these 3 guys actually being Monogame effect. And you should do the very same for content that is of any of these types, right? Are you all here with me? Cool. So what we're going to do here is build and pray. It's restarted. Any questions so far? By the way, if you really want to follow on Owen's tip on buying P3 Biotic, we're on Indie Game Stand. You know Indie Game Stand? Yeah. Say yes. No. Cool. Okay, go and check it out and buy it there for whatever price you want. This rebuild is taking a long time. So meanwhile that happens, what all we want from there is build. One important thing actually of that is this little thing up here. This is the build target. And if I wasn't building, I would show you that it has a drop down with all the target devices that you can target, because I can't come up with better ways to mention that. So, fuck, that's taking a long time. And what we're going to do here is basically the same. I'm going to start a new project, a new Visual Studio, just because I can. Cool. Okay, taking time for everything. Isn't that great? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everything takes time. File, new project. More taking time. And we go to Monogame. Also, there's a Monogame SAML here. In case you had the same question that I had, it was like you can use SAML for the other parts that are not the game. And so you can do menuing and all that kind of slightly boring stuff with SAML, which is an option. So I'm just gonna do that. Call it okay. Generally, the first thing I do when importing anything is check that it works on its own. So checking that it works on its own. More checking if it works on its own. And does it? Hopefully it does. That's not what we should be seeing. Is it out of memory? Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to have to keep going because I don't know why this is happening. This was okay before. Basically, what you will do later is add a content folder here. What we're trying to do, by the way, is port the Amazing Tank sample into Windows 8, in case I didn't make that quite obvious. So inside assets, you're going to put content. and you're going to link into the contents that you build here. So to know where that is, we go to here, we open Windows Explorer, we say bin Windows 8. So, sorry, I do have to show you this. So I could target Android just as well and say build this. So what we're going to do is to add existing item. We had that address from here, so no, that's the wrong one, sorry. See the way that Android is there and it wasn't. So what we're going to do is add this, go here, and add all of this as link. Now, in this one, you do have to do this. For Windows 8, you have to change the build action to content and to copy if newer. So far, we have just added the content, and that's cool. Succeeded. So what we have to do now is bring the actual game files. So we go to add existing item. We're gonna grab this files basically. Okay, we add them as link as well for not changing stuff. Okay, and here there is basically one big difference between doing this in XNA and not. And if we go to, this is the default program.cs that was included on file new Monogame. And basically we have a factory for the game, right? It's like factory Monogame framework of this type, and where the generic is the game class. So what we've done here is this. So this is called entry point. So what you do when you're targeting both Windows 8 and other ones is actually have an entry point depending on what you're going to target. So you create an if def here for a netfx score. That's the name for Windows 8. So because this is duplicated, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to get rid of it. And because I don't need game 1 anymore because I don't have game 1, I'm going to delete it as well. And because I have my entry point here, everything's cool. But if I had to change it, all I have to do is make sure I'm in the same namespace and use the actual game name. And that's it. So it's like that is the big thing you have to do for Windows 8. Other than that, should be kind of fine. Pretty sure I forgot something. You know how horrible it is to do a demo for like your friends? Imagine a demo here. No pressure at all. And this is that sample in Windows 8 RT. This is Monogame. Oh no, someone hit me. Oh no, I can't see anything. Oh no, I'm blind. So I honestly thought that it might not work. But I mean, I don't know if you've ever done this without Unity, if you tried to do porting on normal applications. But I have. I had to do cross-platform stuff, and it was never this easy. So when I see this, I get very, very excited. The content part is a bit hardcore when there is shaders involved. But any other times, it's pretty cool. I've tried the same sample for Android, and there's actually a bug that is fixed been fixed right now because I saw the pull request for making this work in all platforms. That was my desire, to bring it to iOS and Android and say, hey, here's the APK, go crazy. But I'll eventually do that. This code is available. I'm going to make it available through my blog, and also BatCat Games blog, in case you have a look at it, want to have a look at it, or have any questions about it. And now I'm going to keep going with the presentation, so I can tell you about the future. Or start from the beginning, because I love this cat. I love cats. They're so cool. Cool. We've seen this, and it's all good. The future. Okay. So for this year, what's next? We have enhancements and foxes. Yes. Basically, it's all the fixes that have been hanging around. If you go to Monogame, to the Monogame website, there's a good few important issues that need to be fixed. At the moment, they're adding a build server. That means that you will have new builds, binaries of of Monogame available, instead of having to build your own, which is, particularly when you're starting, is kind of handy. Better docs. And the most important thing is the content pipeline. The content pipeline is actually working for textures on Linux. I call it content pie because these pies are just delicious. And it's way better. So the really good news is that it doesn't seem like, oh, it's amazing. But content pipeline just working on Linux is pretty cool. Now, since you're all here and you're all students, now if you came to me with a CV saying, you know what, I contributed code to Monogame, I would be quite impressed. And I guess most people that are into code in any game studio would be as well. And this is a way in which you can help. They are actually looking actively for people to help on committing code for all the importers and the processors for the content pipeline for different target devices. I test them, make sure it works. So if you're wondering, oh, what should I do in summer? That's a nice project to have. Regarding the platforms, so Windows 8 is in progress, but I actually, it's pretty much there. They are cautious and say, yeah, we totally support it. It's like, oh, there is like 5 bugs, 10 bugs. The shader stuff, that's pretty advanced, and it works quite well, but it's, there's still some work to do. But if you're starting a game now, it's probably no risk. PlayStation Mobile, 2D is working, 3D is on the pipeline. Raspberry Pi is early days, but it's kind of cool, and it's a nice platform. Google Chrome, planned, mostly because they have some of the code from Bastion, from Supergiant Games. And Ouya is actually, 2D is looking pretty good. If you check out the Monogame YouTube channel, you should see exactly where they're at. Any questions about the target platforms? No, okay. So again, it's a question of how to make it better, bigger, and faster. We believe this is an awesome platform, so we're building an engine on top of it. Talk about it, send pull requests. If you want to know more about how to do that, just let me know. This is some of the links that you can probably not see at all. They actually use IRC. I thought that was a thing from the past, from when I was like 12. But it's actually, it's a great way to talk to everybody involved in the project. I was gonna say thanks. Actually, there's 2 people I want to say really thanks to, for no real reason or that they are awesome. The first one is Brian Dugan. Because he really rocks. And no, come on. No, come on. It's like he's like the most enthusiastic professor that I have ever met, and I didn't get to meet Phil too much, so I don't know. Phil, yeah. Chumpal is a thing Brian did. It's awesome. I don't really know what it is. It's a tuning thing. So anyway, since I'm on stage, I might as well tell you about our future game. It's a game that we're doing on Monogame, so I think it's slightly relevant-ish. So Jiro, and that is the character, is a 2D side-scroller beat-em-up based in feudal Japan. And we're very, very excited to be working on this. It's an amazing-looking game with combos and stuff, and it looks amazing like this. And like this, there is an element of insanity in the game in which that, basically, if you're going kind of crazy, trees can attack you. You're like walking on a forest. Oh wow! Trees attack you because you're crazy. So if there is any questions about pretty much anything that I haven't answered, this is a good time. Yes, there is a guy over there.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi there.
Question about, well, this is probably specific to Android, but bindings to Java libraries on Android
Okay.
have probably been the biggest pain in the ass for us when it came to Mono.
Okay.
Have you any experience in that area? Or?
Well, I've used them with Mono for Android, and it was quite a straightforward process, particularly if you're using the, you know that you can write a Java kind of class. That way, it is the least friction way. I haven't tried it yet with Monogame. Any particular one?
Well, these are third-party
Yeah,
SDKs we're trying to integrate.
any particular one?
The one right now is Samsung ads.
Oh, right. I haven't tried that one. Like, with Mono for Android, they, with an app, they were fine, but they can be slightly troublesome. Yeah.
Just in terms of cross-platform, that's been the biggest fly in the ointment for us.
Okay, I can't really offer you any help or then.
Sure, no.
Maybe if you have a particular problem about that, or about a particular 3D thing that is open, post it on the forum thread. They are pretty good about sharing that info.
Cool, thanks.
Anybody else?
In a typical year, how many games would you normally prototype, and how many will get seen, and how many actually get licenses? Like,
How many? So
like in a typical year for yourself, like.
There is no typical year. There is no typical year. But let's say we would prototype a good few games, mostly because of the game jams. This is why. The game jams are really, it's really important for a game studio to participate in loads of those. We're working generally bigger games, so this game is kind of scheduled for end of year for release. So that's a good year just working on that. It depends a lot on the studios. So you have to find your own way to go about it. Yes?
Hi, Andrea.
Hello.
I wonder what you feel Monogame's future is with XNA, Microsoft's XNA being in doubt now.
I'm so glad you asked that because I was supposed to make a big deal of it. So when you started asking the question, I thought that. Anyway, so it's actually great. They have plans for what's going to happen next, and they have plans about how to grow it. Not only the content pipeline is there to kind of, to be able to, for you to develop on every platform, not just, you have to have a Windows machine, install the 35 SDKs for Windows Phone, sorry, and all that stuff that is super fun. I love installing SDKs. It's my dream come true. But so basically not having to do that would be amazing. But they also have a bunch of plans. For example, geometry shaders. DirectX 11 support, amazing. And also you can totally drive where is it going next. I think they want to reach a level of stability and completeness across the platforms they're supporting, particularly the big ones, iOS, Android, PC, Mac, something else that I'm forgetting, and get that completely done. And then go like, okay, we can improve on this API and on this API. All of that stuff is happening pretty much from July on. So this is why I'm being such a, come on, get into the community, because I know that it's, now you can make the future of it instead of waiting for some corporation to dictate it for you. Yeah, sorry, that felt really like,
Andrea, I just wanted to ask, for people that don't already know you, how do we find your blog? Because I think you mentioned your blog, Andrea. How do we find your blog for people that don't know you already? Just
sure, it's there at the bottom where you can't see it. It's roundcrisis.com or batcatgames.com. That, or just if you have any questions about Monogame that I can help you with, I'm Round Crisis on Twitter, which is probably where I'm most responsive. Anybody else? Oh, there's a hand there. Movement is good. I'd say you should do interpretive dancing for questions. That would be an amazing.
Sorry. Hi, Andrea.
Hi there.
What do you think was the most difficult aspect of Monogame as opposed to any other language you might have worked with?
Nothing. I had a problem just preparing for this stuff, and when you realize, like, I was like, oh, what is the problem with this shader? And I was at it for like a good 3-4 hours, going like, oh my god, I don't know, I have this presentation tomorrow. And then I realized I had an old version of Monogame. So stupidity is always the most difficult thing. And I haven't found any terrible things. Anything I found, you go and you include the libraries, like I did for the for the Android project, and you start debugging, and it reveals itself. And then if you're really stuck, you can go to the IRC where there's always someone there. So it's nothing so far. It's either not implemented or you just have a problem like I did. Yes?
Most colleges in Ireland, they do teach XNA, but there's no proper introduction to the students about Monogame. So most students don't know. I personally found out during a games jam. Would you consider like going around, like building the community, going around the college and presenting Monogame, like?
Sure. I mean, I love talking about this stuff, and I'd love to go more. I kind of have no idea who would be here, so I had to keep the presentation slightly high level and not delve into code. But yeah, why not? Also, I'm hoping that actually what colleges do is, instead of moving away from something that they've been teaching for so long, that they actually embrace something wonderful like Monogame. I mean, I know Phil and Turles and Brian here in the IT teach XNA, and I know of a bunch of other colleges that do too. I just know personally of those two. Why would they throw away all their material just because there's no Microsoft support? It seems like a perfect way to move forward. So yes and yes. Anybody else? There's a hand over there. Yeah. Okay, if you have one more question, yeah, and make sure you mention cats, because I really like cats.
If you wanted to put a texture of a cat in a game, what would be the advantage of using the XNB file rather than just including the PNG file?
Well, actually, there's two good things. First, it's compiled, so you have an optimization there. You could compress it or do some stuff like that. You could also do something. Actually, that's another thing that I forgot, that it's on the plans. Support multi-definition. That's not there just yet, but it's something that will come. So basically, if you're targeting a tablet that is this size, it will automatically detect that, and then when you're not, you don't. There's a blog post about targeting multiple resolutions in Infinite Flight blog post. So optimizations is the main thing. Well, with that, thank you so much. I hope it was good.